Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Reginald the Vampire, Season 2, Episode 4. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. It's a somber episode, but there's also a beautifulness to it, because every storyline in this episode revolves around Claire. It's how every character wants to be there for her, because sadly, of course they're going to start it off with like the happiest thing ever of Claire's going to see like the sunrise in a very specific spot with her mom and her dad. It's going to be this little family outing, but her mom dies, and we finally find out what her mom's circumstances were. That's kind of sad. Claire's mom was always just in the bedroom, always, last season, and now we actually get to meet her, and just for her to die 4 episodes into the season, it's heartbreaking, because I was wondering if it was something supernatural that was going on. Once again, we know she was getting visited, but we found out that was Altus, but then you're like, was something else visiting her and Altus was protecting her? It turns out she was sick, and no human modern medicine was working, and the reason why Altus was coming to check on her so often, why he always tried to stay nearby, is because he's been trying to find a supernatural means of curing her, but nothing happened. But then all of a sudden she seemed to have gotten better. But the way Reginald puts it, it's basically like the final push of when you get sick, it's almost like the death marches, as he calls it. It's kind of like the non-medical term, but basically it's kind of like your body's basically nearing the end, and so it's putting all this energy, so it seems like you're 100% okay, and even he thought she was okay, but it was her body just finally gave out, And that's the horrendous thing of it came out of nowhere for Claire, plus they were just about to have a powerful family moment, and now it's just, she doesn't even want to open the door, because she even says at the end of the episode, her bag has a whole bunch of stuff, but it has snacks, it has a charger, but she doesn't even want to open the door to get her bag, because opening the door is as long as it's closed, it could just be mom's sleeping, I can open the door and she was okay, and it's her way of having to deal with that. It's her way of processing. It's as long as I don't open this door, mom's death isn't real. And like I said, that ends up being this, that's the core to this episode. And then you have this entire cast, the entire cast around her, supporting her. Obviously, first person to show up upon finding out everything is it's her best bud, Reg. And then eventually, you have Sarah all being there for her, trying to make sure she eats something. And at first it's right, we got to get the body out of there, but she doesn't want that. And sadly, at the same time, this is all going down, Altus leaves, because he feels that's why Altus is now in Claire's life, is because it was a precautionary thing of, if anything happens to Anne, he's supposed to take care of it. That's why he's coming back into her life, trying to that's why Anne really tried to push this along, so they could have a real relationship, so that when Anne is gone, Altus could be there. But sadly, he runs away. Because, and he's dealing with it too, because it's the woman he loved died, and it's I haven't been a father to Claire. Yeah, I've been in her life, but I haven't really stepped up as a father, so who am I to really try and fill that void that her mom's living in her life? I can't do that. And then not only did I fail the woman I love, I failed my child. I failed you, and you'd be so much better off without me here, And it's right, it's selfish to do what he did, regardless of what he's this is not the time to leave Claire, but luckily she wasn't alone. Like I said, she had a support system. You have Todd, when he finds out about it, he's trying to fix one of the slushy machines, because it's right, she likes a little dab of this particular flavor mixed in with what she really likes. And especially from Todd's perspective, when he's talking to Mike about how he's I remember what it was like when my dad died. At my dad's funeral, no one would look at me, and so I tried to pretend like I was okay. So I put on a bigger and bigger smile, but the bigger smile I put on, the less it was okay. And he's just I just wanted normalcy, and that's what Claire needs. So I'm gonna make sure she gets her slushy that she likes, just so she can feel normal. It's beautiful stuff like that. Even the way Sarah was explaining death to Uriel, because Uriel's perspective is, well, you humans have fleeting lives. He's yes, we do count down our lives, based on amount of time, but it's also about the people in our lives. And she was saying that basically my life isn't just made up of like the time I have, it's the people in my life. And the more important someone is, the bigger part of my life they are. So once they're gone, that piece of me is gone, and it leaves a scar, a wound that will never fully heal. And kind of explaining it that way actually did make a lot of sense to Uriel. And that's what Claire's going through, because she lost one of the most important people in her life. The biggest like chunk of her life is gone. And it's let's not forget, Claire is, she tries to be like, right, don't treat me like a kid, but Altis and Reg are almost kind of looking like, but you are a kid, because she is only 13. That's tough for anyone to handle, especially at that age. Like that's a tough thing to handle, especially because it came so swiftly. It was almost like your mom was here one moment and going to next, literally. So, and obviously you have the whole situation with Maurice not handling it well, and him trying to tell Claire just to get out of the way, like, right, we need to, because in his own way he was trying to, he's in the same boat as Angela, because he even said last episode, he's just he's like her, he's angry and scared. And how Angela reacts to it is like, well, I can't go around killing people, I'm gonna like destroy and trash Reginald's place. It's like, well, I can't leave you here on your own, because you're more likely to like burn this place to the ground, so that's a no-go. But I thought there was an element of, well, Maurice knows what it's like to lose a mom. Like his circumstances with his mom are different than the situation with Claire's mom, but I think it's also like the mother situation, I think, struck a chord, just like it did with Angela, which is like, she had said, Angela was telling her like, right, you can kind of handle things in your own time, because you don't get, and no one gets to tell you how to feel and how to grieve and how you should handle it. Like, because grief varies from person to person. Yeah, there's the books on how to handle it, but grief can manifest and be dealt with by individuals in their own way. Like, there's certain guidelines, but it doesn't always, not everyone's going to fully perfectly fit within the guidelines of how you should handle grief. Like, that's a person by person basis. I know, because I've talked about it. I'm the type of person that I want to be left alone when I grieve. I don't do well with being around other people. That's why, like, one of the last times I grieved, I like had a literal breakdown, So it's just one of those things of like, I just want to be left alone. Like, it's, maybe, I don't know, maybe in the grand scheme of things, that's not the healthiest, but that's just how I've always processed grief. And it's like, I don't like being around people. I don't want to be around people talking about it. It's just, I want to taking it in on my own time, absorb it my own time. I don't need other people around me talking. Like, that's just how, like I said, that's how I've always processed it. So I thought that was interesting where Angela was coming from. So I don't know, like, maybe much like Maurice and the Claire conversation of moms, maybe, it seemed like Angela was coming from that perspective too of mom, so don't know the full context of that. But she ends up talking to Maurice later about it, like, right, the way I'm lashing out, you are lashing out too. You literally lashed out at a child who's grieving and stuff. But yeah, Maurice was just angry, and he recognizes, like, right, it was not cool the way I handled that. Like I said, you had your reasons, but it's like, right, you have a ticking clock, and all this is happening. It's, the conversation of death with your own impending deaths, like right around the corner, of course it's going to strike a chord, because it further proves the whole conversation about powerlessness. And that's also what's striking Claire. She has these cool powers, but that doesn't mean anything. So now she's wondering, like, oh, could I bring my mom back? So Nikki and Ashley are there, and Ashley said, not like, Ashley tries to handle things from the perspective of, I'm not going to not fully shoot down your ideas, but I'm going to listen to you. Because everyone is like, oh, try to bring back your mom, don't do that. But Ashley, actually, they took the time to listen to Claire, and it's like, well, can't do the vampire thing because her mom died you have to die with vampire blood already in your system, so no go. Zombies aren't a thing. There was another choice about trying to bring her back, but it's like, yeah, we had to contact her spirit, so they pulled out the seance board and everything, and Claire really appreciated it, kind of feeling like, right, you're listening to me, you're not just like treating me like a child, like you're actually listening to me and understanding where I'm coming from. So I thought that was kind of a really beautiful thing, especially for Nikki and Ashley in that regard. So, because along with, like, right, like I said, I think it struck a chord with Maurice and Angela with the whole mom front, but it ended up leading to this interesting conversation between Reginald and Sarah too, because Sarah had admitted, like, right, she left her family behind, but despite that, there's still some comfort in knowing, like, despite I'm not on good terms with my parents, I'm staying away from them. I at least know they're alive, so there's some comfort in that. And even Reginald, it's like, yeah, I don't know what Claire's going through because I've never lost someone important to me like that. And his parents are still alive, but they're most likely not coming back to Akron, and he can't really do any international travel. But, you know, he can call them up, which he does at the end of the episode. Well, I mean, do it at that point in the episode, which actually had me looking up because I was like, wait, at first I was like, is Jacob Batalon like Hawaiian? Because when he was speaking, I was like, I was like, oh, that sounds. I mean, I looked it up. He was born in Hawaii. I was like, oh, interesting. I don't think I knew that before. I think I've looked Jacob Batalon up before, but I don't think I ever like latched onto that fact. But I was like, oh, interesting. I think it's interesting, and I don't wonder what that means. Maybe it means nothing. I think it's interesting that he spoke it with his mom. That's why I'm dancing around because I'm like, I don't know what specific language it is. Like, I don't think it's like. Okay, so I quickly looked it up. Obviously, it's like Hawaiian Creole, which is also known as Pidgin. I've heard Pidgin before, like someone saying referring to the language, but I didn't realize like that was like Hawaiian Creole, and I guess like maybe Pidgin's like the colloquialism of it, like the more modernized. I don't know, but also maybe also I looked it up and it's like, well, Japanese and Tagalog are also spoken in Hawaii as well. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of different languages spoken there. So I was wondering if that was that like Hawaiian Creole or was that like Tagalog? I wasn't sure. That's why I was dancing around the language because I didn't want to be insensitive because like I actually don't know for sure. That's what I was about to say. I'm like I don't know if I was like it'd be like accurate to be like, oh, he was speaking Hawaiian. Like I felt like I don't think that'd be accurate. Once again, that's ignorant on my part. But yeah, it was just. But the thing is, I thought it was interesting. Like I was bringing up the point, he spoke it with his mom, but not his dad. I mean, he switched over to English with his mom. That's why I'm almost wondering, like, oh, I wonder is his dad not Hawaiian? Like maybe his mom is, but his dad is, or maybe they both are, and it's just like he said. He started the conversation in English, then, but also I think there's certain things where it's like that could just have been a written thing of like, yeah, I just want to also add this in. That could just be added in, just kind of like playing into Jacob's culture, but also it could just be also a thing of like, that's probably like a general conversation. Like, like when you speak multiple languages, you kind of like, you slip in and out of different languages, kind of like the colloquialism I always think of as like Spanglish, where it's just like, yeah, you might start off in English and then there's certain things like, oh, it just makes more sense in Spanish. And so it could just be the same thing. Either way, I went on this tangent. So, but I thought that was a really sweet moment in itself in that regard. So, like I said, it was just this beautiful thing of everyone gathered there for Claire and everyone playing their own part and trying to help her in this own regard. Because even Angela, like, helped out in her own regard, saying what she said to Claire. And then also, like, Maurice later on apologizing for handling things the way he did. But, him and Claire fist bumped, so they're good. So there's that element to it. That later scene in the episode where like everyone's gathered around, people brought some stuff that she's going to need to eat. The fact is that it's like, oh, like can someone get contact Claire's school to let them know, like, obviously she's not going to be there for, like, it's a whole village surrounding her, and she sees that in that moment, and I think that's what gave her the strength in the end to finally decide it's time to open the door, and kind of face all of it. And Uriel shows up because, for one, Reggie kind of got mad at him earlier in the episode because he came to him like, right, is there a way to bring back Anne? And it's like, yes, there is, but there has to be like, this is some Full Metal Alchemist equivalent exchange of you need something of equal value. And it's like, right, to save a life, you have to basically condemn another life. And that's the only way around it. There has to be like a cosmic balance to it all. Even then, I'm like, it could probably definitely go down the Ed and Al Elric situation. Yeah, because the equivalent exchange isn't always equivalent exchange when we're talking about bringing back the dead. So I could see that easily being a situation where even if you are like exchanging one life for another, doesn't mean it'll fully sit without there being some shape or form of consequence. But because of what Sarah had said to him in the episode, he shows up, and he's not going to bring Anne back, but he gives Claire an opportunity to say goodbye. And even her mom recognizes, like, right, what I did was messed up. It was kind of selfish and messed up that I left you to handle this on your own. Like, yes, you have people around you. You're not alone. But it is still like, right, it was all sudden. But for her, it's like, I didn't want your last memories of me to be, like, ruined, you know, because she's like, if you knew ahead of time, every time you laughed, every time we joked around or whatever, I would always be able to see that sadness in your eye, knowing, you know, because that would have consumed you, just like it did Altus. Like, everything Altus did was about trying to find a way to save her, and it's like she didn't want that to be what consumed what little time her and Claire had left. So it's like, yes, it was selfish, but it was also a means of trying to protect her daughter from the sadness. But it's like, as the episode kind of also talks about too, you have to face that stuff. You know, you have to deal with it in your own time, sure, but you still have to face it. Because Claire had actually asked Reggie to, like, compare, like, glamour her to forget, but it's like, no, I can't do that. Like, the pain, you have to feel it. But she's like, I don't want to feel that pain right now. But it's like, you kind of have to go through it. Because she's like, your mom taught you so much, like so many aspects of what makes you who you are, Claire, is tied to memories and aspects of, like, something you shared with your mom. And it's like, if I take your mom away from you, I will take away all these other things that makes you. And I thought that was kind of like a beautiful, like, yeah, like best friend, but almost like sibling moment that they had, which I thought was so beautiful. But yeah, just like that final moment between Claire and her mom, and it's just like, especially the ending. I didn't shed any tears, but I was getting choked up. If that scene went on too long, I would have been shedding tears. I was super close, but especially when she had to, like, finally say, it's like, right, we can say goodbye, because I know you are strong enough to handle this. You are strong enough to handle anything. And just like, right, we don't have much time, so let's just say goodbye. And it's like, I'm always going to be there. I'm going to be that voice inside your head when you don't make your bed or do this and do that. It's just, you know, I'm always going to be by your side. And just like when, like I said, you cut back to her just like after, like, that chance with her mom disappears and she's back in the apartment, and just her standing there, tears in her eyes, surrounded by the people and everyone coming in to hug her. I was like, oh, it's, once again, it takes a village, and it's just so beautiful. You even have Mike later on when he's talking to, after the funeral and the service, he ends up talking to Todd. He's like, right, you want to take some time to get away? Like, maybe a few days to kind of decompress. And Todd's like, yeah, I appreciate that. Because I think it, once again, it brought up some bad memories for him with his dad's death. So, you know, I thought that was kind of a nice thing he needed. Also, Claire had made the declaration, no one show up at the funeral in black, because she's like, I don't like that. Like, how about showing up in tie-dyed, you know, bright and colorful, you know? So, and everyone did, except for Maurice, because obviously he didn't get the memo, because he didn't show up at the funeral, because he didn't feel like he had the right to. But he shows up afterwards, after the service, and ends up apologizing to Claire. So sadly, Altus was there too, but he stayed hidden. He was a bug the entire time and stayed hidden, and he didn't show up, and he pays his respects. Like, he probably was at the funeral itself too, but not just what was at the slushy shack or whatever. Like, he was probably also at proper funeral, but he waited till everyone left to kind of say his own goodbyes. But he's like, yeah, he's hurting as well. There's no way he was going to miss it, but he wasn't going to show up because Claire went through all that grieving on her own. Well, she had other people, and he probably did keep an eye on her, but he probably never showed up directly, because he's like, right, I should have been at least part of the group of people that was there for her. I should have at least been one of those people, but all I could do was run away because I was dealing with things on my own. Just like Claire was kind of trying to run from the pain, he was running from it too. So, because this ties into another angle to the episode, but back to the Claire and Reginald conversation really quickly. I forgot about a really interesting part of that conversation was like, right, like, you could try and run from the grief now, but if you don't learn how to deal with it now, you'll never be able to open yourself up to love again, which she's kind of like, right, I never want to love again, because if I do, you're just going to be hurt. But it's like, yeah, but it's like, love will always kind of find its, you know, and Reginald's the romantic that he is, so he was able to kind of spin it in a way to kind of be like, right, like, not to kind of give up on love. Like, even with heartbreak and pain, it shouldn't make you, like, not open yourself up to that love in the world, especially because she has a lot of love around her, and that is every single person that was there for her throughout this episode. So But that ties into like right Reginald and Sarah because well Reginald the episode starts where last episode ends off with Reginald threatening to kick Uriel's ass. It's like oh stay away from Sarah, but Sarah's like no like Uriel's good, he's cool, and like Reginald's jealous because it's like oh there he is chatting up Sarah, which Maurice is like I had to stop myself because I almost want to say Marcel, but Maurice is like yo like have you like are you really worried about the angel that's macking on your girl who's not your girl when we've got the threat of another angel coming to wipe out our entire species? Which speaking of you had Maurice sit down and talk to Uriel for a bit, and Uriel says like right I'm not here with what Balestro is doing, which I actually completely forgot that him and I think the other angel is Raphael. It's like I completely forgot their other mission other than dealing with like Reginald. Like their other mission was to find Balestro's kid, which I was like oh yeah I completely forgot about it because I wonder if that had something to do with Claire because we're still not 100% sure where that stands because once again her dad's an incubus yet she's the one that has like the zappy powers that she does like so what is that about? But why are the angels against Balestro? Like has he gone rogue even though he's one of the 7? Like did he break some rules? Like that's why I'm like does he have ulterior motives for doing what he's doing? Because Uriel's not going to get involved because he's like well no one can stand up to Balestro because he's too strong, like he's not something the vampires can do, it's like all you can do is just accept your death. But then Nikki later on, explains to them, is like, well, you can kill Balestro because Angel's sword can kill an angel, but also he's on a different level. So, well, we know that, I mean, he gave Nikki his sword to fight Raphael. So it's like, why would he suggest that against Balestro unless it wouldn't be enough against Balestro, So that's why I'm like, is he doing this on his own? Does he not have heaven's like sign off or permission or God's permission to do this? Because we got a little insight into heaven because it's like, right, it's like we don't like view humans, we don't watch you guys like ants, or at least he said we don't watch ants, but Sarah had to backtrack to be like, well, when I'm talking metaphorically speaking of, we're the ants in this metaphor of like, because she's like, oh, are you my guardian angel? And he was like, no, I didn't hear your prayers last season, nor am I a guardian angel. Doesn't seem like anyone necessarily has a guardian angel, despite me calling him a guardian angel last episode, because I kept being like, oh, that's Sarah's angel. Not literally, but it's also like, well, he cares about Sarah and wants to protect her, so. Which Reginald did finally tell her the truth, and she's like, what, are you going to die again? He's like, oh, wow, you actually nailed that. She's like, yeah, it's a pretty regular thing, so what's going on? It's like, yeah, an angel's going to come in 23 days from now and like on midnight and wipe out the entire vampire species. It's like, why? It's like, well, Cain and Abel, night, light and dark, it's a whole thing. And she's like, oh, is that why you don't like Uriel? He's like, well, actually, turns out Uriel's actually a pretty okay guy. It's like, yeah, that was more like personal beef. Well, he has all the right to not be very suspicious of an angel popping up, but it's also the element of, yeah, but he's also proven himself to be a decent enough dude, helping out Claire the way he did this episode. Which even it's like, cool, we're not going to take this line down, because it was actually Sarah who suggested, why don't you kill Balestro? And it's like, whoa. She's like, yeah, I get it. I just found out about angels being a real thing. That's wild. But if it means choosing between angels and the people I care about, well, fuck angels. Like, kill them, So that's interesting. Also, just kind of ending the episode on a kind of a nice note too, is the whole, right, they had the whole issue with, Reginald ended up handling it, but like child services, because she is still 13. She's a minor in that regard. So the fact is that Reginald handled that because he made Nikki promise last season, like in his impending death, because he thought he was going to die, that that she would take care of Claire. And it's like, yeah, she's still going to keep up that promise. So it's like, well, I'm going to be living with you. And Nikki's like, no. And then Ashley's like, you're going to be living with us. So it's like, oh, that's so cute. So you guys are going to be kind of co-parenting / co-big sissing. Co-sibling, I should say. you're gonna kind of do the co-parenting thing while also doing the pseudo older sibling position is how I should phrase that. So I thought that was really sweet and nice, and just the episode ending the way it does with Claire, like, you know, before she leaves, going in her mom's room and having a little pamphlet for her mom's memorial and just sitting on the bed. I was like, just kind of a somber but, you know, beautiful way to end the episode with just everything. Like I said, there's a larger plot going on here, but it was a very intimate story revolving around death, and it still in managed to push the plot forward. And it's like, I think it's an important thing for, I mean, like I said, literally the entire cast was involved in this episode, which was so beautiful in that regard. So I'm very excited to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. Once again, I'm getting to these late. The next episode 5, is already out. It's already 12:42 at the time you're recording this, so episode 6 will be tonight. So, but yeah, either way, I'm interested to see where things take us going forward from here. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.